Recording in progress. Mababu Malele, ancestors forever. Mababu Malele, ancestors forever.
It is an African tradition to pour libation at special and notable occurrences. We give thanks for this day, for the work that has been going on for decades, and now we see some fruit of that labor. We pour libation today in honor of that work. This is a call and response process, and so I invite you to unmute. And after each statement is read or ancestor's name is called, please respond with Ashe, which means it is so, it is written, it is established as we have said. So I will begin. I'm using water, an elixir of life, and pouring it into a plant with rich soil. For the great Almighty God of all creation, our provider, healer, protector, miracle worker, restorer, redeemer of lost time and stolen legacy, releaser of secret treasures and the deep mysteries of heaven, we say Ashe.
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 We pour libation for Africa, the motherland and cradle of civilization. Ashe.
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 We pour libation for the ancestors and their indomitable spirits, for the sacred knowledge they entrusted to us, for their resiliency and their strong, proud shoulders upon which we stand. Ashe.
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 And we take a moment to remember those and to honor those ancestors who have gone before, those shoulders we stand on individually and collectively, and those who have gone before us this year into the realm of the ancestors that have gone in 2021. So I will begin with one community ancestor, Renoko Rashidi. Ashe.
Ashe.
You begin to
Abraham.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Van Cunningham. Ashe.
Ashe. Aaron Pelota.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Marcus Garvey. Ashe.
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 Mary McLeod Bethune. Ashe.
Ashe.
El Haj Malik Shabazz. Ashe.
Ashe.
W.E.B. Du Bois. Ashe.
Ashe.
We pour libation as well for the elders who have labored for decades on our behalf and from whose struggle and wisdom we can learn much. Ashe.
Ashe.
We pour libation for our youth who represent our hope. They represent the fruit of our labor and our promise for tomorrow. Ashe.
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 We pour libation for our people, the original people who journeyed out to explore, populate, and establish human life across the earth. Ashe.
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 We pour libation for Umoja, the principle of unity, which should guide us in all that we do. Ashe.
Ashe.
And so now we'll view a very short film that will explain a principle that we're operating under with the work that we're doing.
The story of Ubuntu. One day, a Western anthropologist went to Africa to study the social behavior of an indigenous tribe. He proposed a game to the children, and they willingly agreed to be part of it. He put a basket filled with fruits underneath a tree and made the children stand 100 meters away. then announced that whoever could reach the basket first would win the whole basket and could eat all the fruits by him or herself. He lined them all up, raised his hand to give the start signal. Ready, set, go. Astonishingly, the children took each other's hands and started running together. Reached the basket at the same time. Then they sat down in a big circle and enjoyed the fruits together, laughing and smiling the whole time. He couldn't believe what he saw, and he asked them why they had waited for each other, as one could have taken the whole basket all for him or herself. The children shook their heads and replied, Ubuntu. How can one of us be happy if all the others are sad? One of the sayings in the country is Ubuntu. It means, I am because we all are. It is the essence of being human. Let's always have this attitude and spread happiness wherever we go. May we all live our lives with the spirit of Ubuntu.
And so we come together today in the spirit of Ubuntu. Ubuntu stands for I am because we are. Ubuntu is the power of shared humanity. Ubuntu is that our value is tied up in the value of others. Ubuntu. Ubuntu also says a person is a person through other people. We need our community, and our community needs us. Someone else said, when the stakes are high, remember Ubuntu. And so we do on August the 2nd, 2021, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution 75-314, and it is to establish the permanent forum for people of African descent. The stakes are indeed high, 1.6 billion strong and beyond. Know today that your freedom and my freedom are bound together. We also go forward, we press on, guided by the principles of Nguzo Saba, which is unity, self-determination, collective work and responsibility, cooperative economics, purpose, creativity, and faith. Ashe.
Ashe.
A quote from our Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey Sr. says, up you mighty race, accomplish what you will. And now let's take a look at the work that is before us, and then we will introduce our leaders.
The United Nations is an organization with goals of peace and sustainable development around the world. Their mission is huge, but we're breaking it down in 2 minutes. 17 sustainable development goals. Let's get to them, because the more you know. Look, in some corners of the world today, people are living on $1 a day. Hey, that's not how it ought to be. So goal 1, eliminate poverty, and goal 2, root out hunger across the globe. There's 800 million people hungry, if you want to know. Number 3 is health and well-being, and getting people the health care that they need in. Learning in school are the hard to go for. Education opens up minds and doors. Goal number 5 is empower girls and women so they can have the same rights that men are given. Number 6, people need water that's clean. Poor sanitation can spread disease. Carbon-free energy is goal number 7, and how to achieve it is a question that's pressing. But if we put our minds together and work hard, we can find a solution, I'm guessing. 17 sustainable development goals to improve life all around the globe. Protecting human health and the environment. Whatever bed we make, we gon' have to lie in it. 17 sustainable development goals to improve life all around the globe. Protecting human health and the environment. Whatever bed we make, we gon' have to lie in it. Now imagine that you work all day for no pay. Economic growth and decent work is goal 8. Goal number 9 is to foster innovation in infrastructure and industrialization. Goal number 10, inequality reduction. 11 is sustainable city construction. 12, well, that's sustainable consumption. So what we use matches up with production. Goal 13 calls for urgent action to combat climate change, cause we know what's happening. 14 14, protect life under seas. 15, protect life on land. Goal 16 is for peace and justice. All over the planet, they're in high demand. And the final goal, number 17, is the critical factor, the heart of the machine. It's the strength in the way we achieve these goals of sustainable development around the globe. Yo, 17 sustainable development goals to improve life all around the globe. Protecting human health and the environment. Whatever bed we make, we gon' have to lie in it. 17 sustainable development goals to improve life all around the globe. Protecting human health and the environment. Whatever bed we make, we gon' have to lie in it.
Whatever bed we make, we're going to have to lie in it. And with that, we want to introduce the chairman of Friends of the African Union, Mr. Herschel Daniels.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I was just on a call about OxyContin and the settlement and the bankruptcy case. Such a lousy deal, lousy deal. So thankfully it's going to be appealed in terms of the bankruptcy settlement, because the Slacker family in the settlement gets away with immunity from any lawsuits. And they get to keep their billions. Here we are. And it's relevant today because we're talking about health. And we're talking about what you eat in part determines your health. And in 3 weeks, the United Nations on September 23rd in the General Assembly, in the new General Assembly of the United Nations, the 76th meeting of the General Assembly of the United Nations, is going to be talking about the Global Food Systems Summit. Folks, we've got 3 weeks in which to put something together that is representative of the talk, literally, you are what you eat. And within that context, what can we contribute? Well, American Black farming, as part of an Indigenous Peoples Alliance of America, could be reborn using the resources that is over at the United States Department of Agriculture. Now, all of next week at 4 o'clock, that's what we're going to be working for. Then on this call at 7 o'clock, we're going to use that work to set an agenda for the side events of civil society to the 3 organizations which are in our mix, which have ECOSOC status. And this is within the framework of the Food Systems Summit. This is allowed as per the protocol, where the governments of the world have literally held over 400 meetings on this Food Systems Summit. Not a great amount of those meetings were by the countries, the 70 countries that qualify as countries ruled by people of African descent, with a majority of people of African descent. So we can be in a unique position of setting an agenda in the permanent form on people of African descent by this work to set the framework, because the whole idea that is confirmed today is that UNESCO, by paperwork through the Center of Peace through the working group in the United States and through the ambassador, the permanent ambassador to the ECOSOC from UNESCO, that we are bringing the permanent forum on people of African descent on May 25th here to the United States in Philadelphia. Philadelphia has the right of first refusal that we will work to make this happen. It's a word form where you're talking about 70 countries that are principally should be there. And, you know, we're talking about easily over 100 countries that should have exhibits and events going on there. We'll be talking about this next week as we prepare for the Food System Summit to get this together with Friends of the African Union so that we go into next week with a proposition to the USDA for this. That's only one of 17 government agencies that we will be approaching for this funding. I'll stop there and take any questions so far. And by the way, Guy from UNESCO has been traveling, and so he will join us when he can. He is going to assign one of his people to join us on an ongoing basis. Wow, Andrew, it seems I've done my job. Okay, so that's about the Food System Summit. There's no questions there. I assume there's no questions about the permanent forum on people of African descent. And yes, for those of you who wanted to attend events that are being held, okay, I said I would get you links. I just didn't have enough bandwidth to do so. Okay, today has not been that day of coordination. So I will get you links, okay, and send them. The executive director of the African Diaspora Directorate and Andrew Williams of FAU Bermuda Americas. I will send you those links so that you will be able to send them out to people on your respective mailing lists.
Well, I believe Prophet Cox may have an update because Sheldon Williams did send her the links, so she could forward them to you and me and us without having to trouble you more with your bandwidth challenge.
I appreciate it.
Well, Sheldon didn't actually send me links to what I did is well, I don't know if you've heard something different, but I got some links because I registered, but all my links are in Spanish. And so I did email back and ask for it in English. Yeah, I get some each day, actually. Now, what I did get from Sheldon is that I got an invite to come to a meeting, the permanent forum of people of African descent to come to a work group. And so when I was there, he gave us a link to, is it Diaspora Rising or one of the groups? And so, but you know, when the work group was over and I clicked over, they were also finishing up. But I have been getting regular emails to join every day throughout the day, but they're in Spanish. So they're making an attempt, but they are in Spanish. So I don't know how to get those translated. Maybe next year they'll have, more translation services or whatever. But the work group, and that was my first time. I guess they've been meeting. Prince Andrew, you said because Sheldon, is it Sheldon? Sheldon Williams, that he's been doing work on that. And he did an incredible presentation when he was on here as well. But I don't know, the Clear Blue, I got an email, so I jumped on it because I'm very interested in the permanent form and what it's about and where it's going. And so this work group, which has a lot of young people on there, I think probably only 2 of us old folks are on there, but a lot of creative. I mean, it just was really very interesting and stimulating to see all the young people who are on there. And they have a work group. They have about 4 different subcommittees and that you can sign up for. And then they'll be nominating some people for, I guess, for a 10-person commission or something. So they have work that they'll be doing. And so I'm going to go and see what it's about. And so it was a good meeting, but that was something different than the International Day.
Okay, all right, and it looks like you still have work to do.
Yeah, so the 10 people, so half of the people will be nominated by states, okay, and then the other half is going to be, unfortunately, nominated by the Human Rights Council. Okay, so the rules of the permanent form on the first iteration, firstsite.com, and I guess I need to break those out as separate because the United Nations published it, and it's in the link, so you have to read the whole document to get the link. So I'll send that out to everybody. But it's a 6-page document that gives the rules for the meeting. It's going to be for 4 days. The budget is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of, less than $1 million. Okay. We're still having a discussion on whether it's going to be the first one in New York, which is what my faction is looking for. When I say my, okay, the faction that started work on this back in 2013, okay, 2012, versus the newcomers to it, who are just as well as it being in Geneva as in New York. Okay. And in terms of what is contained subject area, the whole idea of having it in Geneva is because the recommendation
You froze, I think.
Yeah, Herschel, you froze. Or
is that it, although limited to 4 days before, that's not what is needed. Okay, because we, but rather to the
Herschel, you froze again, in case you didn't know.
He's muted now.
And Andrew, I would add though that I don't really need the links for this week anymore. There are enough projects on the table so that I don't really need to go to, I have some assignments to get done. And I would much rather, if Herschel, he has a lot to do, if there's anything at all that I would like to see done, is what we talked about earlier. So anything else I requested, take it off the table. Just the piece on health, that's it. So that's
okay.
it.
Well,
Open that door and that's all.
all right. Well, the health issues. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I see you can hear me. Okay. So you didn't hear any of that. Okay, interesting. When it's mutes. The whole idea is to disconnect the permanent form from the Human Rights Council. It has to stand on its own as a body to the United Nations General Assembly to have any power. The Human Rights Council, if you tie it to the Human Rights Council General Assembly, like many of the newcomers are perfectly happy to do, you thereby blunt the ability for systematic change, because the Human Rights Council is a good place to lose your power. And that's just a reality of the United Nations system. It's, the committees, it's the committee 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5 that matter. Okay, for being systematic change, and as an advisory body, the implementation of the permanent form of Human Rights Council.
You may
So
have
that's
to
why
rethink.
for the first session to be in New York.
Well, you may have to rethink that, Herschel, because as I understand it, it was actually the United Nations Human Rights Council that was the initiator of the International Decade for People of African Descent, and have been pushing from that time to this time to get the UN resolution passed. So
No, that's not true. Okay, back in 2013, okay, when this initiated, okay, as a initiative in the United Nations to the General Assembly passed in 2014. The initiative, okay, has always been to have the permanent form stand on its own, not unlike the experience of, and stronger than the permanent form on indigenous issues. The Human Rights Council, and we understand that the people who are promoting the tie to the Human Rights Council, when I say they're new to this whole issue, they're new to the whole idea of what the permanent form can be and what it will end up to be if it continues to be tied to the Human Rights Council.
is there a way to decouple it?
It is in the original charter. Okay, it's got to come out right next year. Yes. So short answer, yes. Okay, and starting with that, the first meeting has to be in New York, the UN headquarters, not UN Geneva.
Well, you say it has to be, but is it going to be?
Well, what we're doing to make that happen is to harness the wealth of the major corporations to hold it in New York. Again, it's short of a budget. That's the key. It's a less than $1 million was allocated in the budgetary process for this. Okay. And the infrastructure to hold it in New York is more expansive than the infrastructure in Geneva. So just from a physical infrastructure holding, New York beats Geneva. Okay. Now, what matters is how we surround it as civil society. And so that's what I'm talking about, that we make our great play on civil society, okay, during the General Assembly. This is going to be the first major issue-oriented General Assembly meeting that civil society can play a role in on September 23rd. I mean, the new session starts on the 16th, okay, of September. So you've got all the nations coming in to make their pitches. Okay, and this year it's going to be in person. So this is our best time to get our pitch in for having it in the New York.
Brother
Yes,
Herschel, John Jackson.
Yes.
I have a couple of things. But first, I received a call today from the African Union Embassy in DC. They want to be informed as to how to interact with the Afro-American diaspora leadership. So how can we figure that out? What kind of a mailing list should we provide them? And the second thing, going back to the first General Forum being in New York, if $1 million is not enough, what is the required minimum that you have in mind?
I have in mind something like $10 million. Okay, based on what most of the delegates who would need to be there don't have the funding necessary to be there. Okay, that's been one of the problems that we've had before, that we've experienced and so that's why I said next week that we should work out the details on the call, okay, at 7 p.m. Next week, based on the work around that. But I was looking at a budget of somewhere that the Secretariat and the event needs is about 10 million for the May meeting with the Philadelphia and the New York meeting, and the standing up of the auxiliary for the Secretariat.
Okay, I can understand that. I'm reminded of an anecdote about during the Civil Rights Movement, in which men were and the participants were thrown into jail and had to make bail and all of that. And one of the national organizations of Negro women says, well, we can help. What do you want? And when they got the figures, so we can give you that out of petty cash. Do we have contact with such women today?
I have contact today with a corporation who could write the check.
Okay, well, considering that we have thousands of Black corporations and they have an annual budget of $200 billion, they can afford a few million here and there.
Again, no disagreement whatsoever. And that's what the intention is, to come together to make that pitch for that. But my standby is one corporation, two corporations who I already have a relationship with, who can cut the check.
Okay, I'm not contesting that. I'm simply saying having that core add to it these others to make it even larger. I remember recalling. What? Okay, yeah, I'm recalling again lessons in history and economics that after the Spanish-American War, 1,000 millionaires met in New York to start investing in Cuba. And each of them contributed $10,000, which gave them $1 million. And they put that in a bank in Cuba, which they leveraged to develop that island. And they were masters until Fidel Castro pushed them out. So if we have the money, What is the mechanism for pooling it?
The mechanisms are in place for those organizations who are in ECOSOC status. So we've signed with one of which who is playing a vital role in these. There are 3 organizations that we are currently dealing with, and that there are more organizations who are in that working group that EDFU is part of, that I was part of, that I've played since we got the permanent form. I've played virtually no role in, but that group for the ECOSOC organizations need to sign a unified memorandum of understanding relative to these points that we're talking about. And that within that context, then and that unified voice be able to speak to this. And so I'm all for us here in the United States to make that happen within the context of the African Union Embassy here to make that a reality in the discussion, because the reality is that Europe is already moving that way. The African diaspora in Europe, okay, which is one of the driving organizational impetus behind the working group on the permanent form, okay, has a plan of action that's centered around Geneva. Okay, and so if we're going to advocate centered around New York and centered around a strong permanent form and a secretariat in that meeting, and et cetera, then I would agree with you. We need to be about it.
Yeah, so I'm familiar with that region. If the African Union adopted my formula, they would be Region 6. But so many of them are tied up with the governmental agencies there, and they're trying to advance their membership and their citizenship as Swedes and Germans and French. Not to put them down, but if we have 55 million, we have $1 trillion in cash flow. At 25% per capita, we can get you the money you need. So I'm just saying, is there no conglomerate of promoters who can do that work for us?
Ask that again on Saturday's call, John, and we'll be able to answer you, okay, and say yes or no, or whether or not the promoters can come together in such a memorandum of understanding here domestically.
Okay, but remember, 1 million people giving $1 has the same buying power as one person with 1 million. Okay. Thank you.
But it's always easier to get that one person than the million people.
Well, that's what I'm preaching against. But okay.
I know what you're preaching against, John. We've been together long enough that I know what you're preaching against.
Yeah, we need that population base. No, 55 million people will easily sacrifice $1. We just have to give them a front door to appear before and make the donation.
Well, again, John, I'm actually pushing that agenda. I was, like I said before, the call for the OxyContin and et cetera. I was actually pushing that agenda because I knew that that is an agenda that was the most effective agenda that we had when Marcus Garvey said Africa, okay, for the Africans. And if he would not have been sabotaged, history would have been changed. Okay. And
Yes,
now,
I'm asking us, we have 100 years of that. So now in the next century, do we have the way to get the masses to sacrifice? I've seen histories in which people will go hungry in order to support an ideal. So our people will step up and make the measures if they have someone to identify with, or if they have a place in which to show their largesse.
we agree. Okay, when we went in this final round, we agreed that is true, which is why in 2019 we created the African Diaspora Directorate, because we all agreed, who did so, that the sixth region, as defined by the African Union in 2005, should be a neutral vehicle. And I think it was you who came up with the idea that we should use the analogy of calling it a spaceship, okay, that everyone can bolt on their particular module and their particular aspect, and we under a common goal. So we have the common goal now, okay, for all Black folk around the world, okay, and so that changes the perspective a bit, but you were correct in the sixth region, in terms of the 300 million, or the United States counts the 200 million of us. Okay. But as you well know, as you just stated, many different regions are tied to their region, okay, versus a commonality. Okay. And so it is what it is.
Yeah, I am trying to capture the spirit of the moment. Like, whereas I am the UNI assistant for the Organization of the US and Canada, the third assistant president general is in a position as a government official of Latin America to associate not only with Costa Rica at that level, but the Caribbean, the Spanish countries, and Brazil. And I've got to coach him, but I've got to give him something to work with rather than just pie in the sky.
Yeah, so let's follow up on that, John. Tomorrow afternoon, I will have finished this whole series of my singular pursuit. Okay, that we can have that talk tomorrow afternoon.
What time tomorrow?
Can we say 3 p.m. Eastern Standard tomorrow?
Okay, at the 8 o'clock number?
No, I'll call you directly.
Okay, I'll be here.
All right, it's almost 8 o'clock. Okay, and me and John have carried on a conversation that if you have any questions, now's the time to ask those questions. If not, I'm going to ask, Elder Cox, if she will say some words as we go about to the FAU health call.
Is it okay if I yield to our young person here? I don't know how young she is. Is that too short?
Too late.
No.
Ball's in your court. Step up.
Kule,
Yes, please.
We
can
need
you
close.
share a couple positive words, something from Cameroon, something on your heart, just something really quick that blesses us all and launches us off?
Okay. Okay, let's bow our heads in prayers. Father in heaven, we thank you for today. Lord, you said when two or more are gathered in thy name, there in their midst, you're present. We acknowledge your presence in our midst, O God. We thank you for every deliberation that has taken place for the glory of your name, O Father. That as we disperse from this place, O God, may thy Holy Spirit be with us, O Father. That everything that we say and think, everything we say, do and think, bring greater glory and honor unto your name in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Thank you so much.
Amen.
Amen.
Good
Okay, we're out.
words.
Andrew, I was hoping to do a presentation. Is it to be done so a different day? I'm not sure.
Well, let's
Okay.
talk about that after this. We're
Okay.
winding up.
So Andrew, schedule it for tomorrow.
Okay,
Okay.
Poulet, so tomorrow it is.
Thank you.
Look
Bye.
forward to it.
Okay.
Bye.